Welcome, everyone. We're live once again to my interviews of interviewing amazing people that I know. And yet again, we have another amazing goddess. Now, Dr. Ann has been on the show a few times. But as you will all know, we are multidimensional beings and we live many lifetimes in one when we train with the Modern Mystery School. So Dr. Ann, Divina Ann, who is the same person because she does so much in the world, has just written an amazing book, which is actually in Amazon top sellers, I believe. So we're going to talk to Dr. Ann all about Once Upon a Tinder. Welcome, Dr. Ann. How are you?
Oh, Divina Kate, thank you so much for having me on. And yes, I'm excited to talk about this topic. I want to check that you can hear me because our internet connection was a little bit slow earlier. Can you still hear me?
We can. Hopefully we're just having a huge storm go over now at the same time. So obviously we're going to be talking about some amazing, passionate stuff.
Yes, indeed. So people ask me why I wrote this book, and I hadn't been on the dating scene for over 20 years. I, first of all, decided I was going to endeavor again. And I mean, my marriage had broken down 5 years previously. So it was time, I felt, to start into the arena. And I had two really good friends who suggested I try out a dating app. Now, to me, I had no idea what I was letting myself in for. And it was the subsequent stories, that I was telling my friends in work, that I was telling, that literally had them doubled over into. And I realized that I had to, I was onto something here. I was onto this idea that I had to start laughing at myself, that I had to start, taking life a little less seriously and really, really enjoying life. And the thing that I did in, the couple of years that the book tends to span over, I actually give myself permission. I give myself permission to say yes to what I wanted to say yes to, and no to what I really wanted to say no to. And the lessons that I learned, throughout all of that, just give me so much insight into myself, into what it's like to try to relate their experiences to men, and men to try to relate their experiences to women. I mean, we're so different. Our ways of approaching life are so different that I just felt that it's time to write about it. And the response has been really, really remarkable. And you're right, Kate, it has been on Amazon and best-selling list in women's sexuality, women's spirituality, in psychology, theology, and etiquette as well. Because there are pieces in the book that suggest an etiquette. I mean, the book itself is just, a list really of my experiences and my suggestions. What people do with it is really down to themselves. But I think it gives a lot of insights as to what goes on when we feel we have carte blanche, right? Anything that we want to, because we've got the computer between us and the other person. And that was a huge piece as well in all of this. So I had fun writing the book. I wrote about the experiences first. I did that over a long weekend. And then each experience is a chapter in between that takes the learnings from that experience and puts it into context and how we might manage ourselves when we're, when we're going through life and what life throws at us.
So Divina Ann, right, I want to get down to the nitty gritty here, because some people have referred to this as maybe a little bit saucy. So of course, we've, the dating scene. I have been married for 15 years. So I never really understood, or I don't know about the dating world via apps, etc. But I have lots of friends such as yourself who have shared their experiences with me. And some are very positive and people end up getting married. And then some of them, of course, leave you quite shocked. So why, what can the book source say? Can you shed some light on that? Because we don't want to talk about sex. We want to talk about these things, don't we? I know we're British, but we can break down and we can talk about.
Yes, I'm not sure whether it's being an Irish Catholic or being British as to whether they stiff upper lip or they, you can't talk about those sorts of things has as much to play on it. And yeah, I mean, the truth is that, I have a lot of advice in the book about, what are the questions you want to ask on that first date if you want a relationship. But for me, I didn't really ask those questions, which was quite telling in the beginning, because I wanted to explore. I wanted to reconnect with myself physically again, emotionally. I wanted to live life. I wanted to have that sense of fun and frolicking. And actually, in the book, there's a chapter on love and the different types of love according to Greek mythology. And I think that was a big eye-opener for me as well, because depending on what you are looking for and what you are prepared to put in at the beginning, that will dictate very often the trajectory of the relationship and the trajectory of the encounter and the trajectory of the outcome as well. So, for example, it starts with the description of eros, which is all about passion. And if you're going in full, you're diving deep into the whole passionate side of the relationship in the beginning, and, it's all fireworks, and, you're enjoying that side of things, very often the outcome for something like that is that it burns out just as quickly as the passion started. So that's a little hint to, ourselves, as women in particular, because very often we invest emotionally a lot quicker. But I'm not saying that, that's always the case. Sometimes the gentleman will as well. But, for ladies, we get caught up in that emotion. And then so when our heart is broken, we feel very often it's then that we want to project that onto the person that supposedly broke our heart. But if we know what we're getting into in the beginning, then we can understand, well, where we want to take that to. So sometimes it's a good thing to hold back a little. But I have to say, yes, during the course of the book, there are multiple stories there where there was no holding back. There was just that this is what I want. This is what I want to say yes to. This is what I want to explore. This is me right now. This is what I want for me. And that saying yes to myself was so liberating after not being, with anyone for 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. Okay. 5 years. I think I deserved that saying yes to myself. And so that exploratory period was, an immense reopening of myself as a person, as a goddess. And what I learned along the way as well, and what's really valuable about apps is that, it's that swiping right says yes. And that swiping left that says no. And I'm just coming back to that again, because very often as women, we can be quite conflicted inside because we have these things that are called emotions. And, emotions can lead us astray. They can keep us caught up in a moment rather than, getting on with creating the life that we really, really want for ourselves. And it's that can really guide us. So when you have a little know-how, when you know that you're going into something and you want to hold back a little, maybe not go straight for eros in the beginning. Maybe you want something that you wanted to develop a little more of a friendship with, the person, and get to know them better, and have that little space between you for things to develop in terms of your knowledge of each other, in terms of your likes and dislikes. Is there compatibility? That's a big one. If someone isn't compatible with you, then are you really going to invest a lot of your time? Because the more time you spend with someone that the outcome isn't going to be what you want, then the less time you have for, exploring this array of other people out there who are likely more compatible with you and who you can have an amazing time with. So it's important to, take that aspect of it, which is that fun, that joy, and not take it just so seriously, because sometimes we can really dig a hole for ourselves as well.
So what I'm hearing there is that, obviously I know you through the mystery school. We've been friends for many, many years, and you've done an incredible amount of work on yourself. So you know yourself pretty well. And how do you feel that knowing yourself is a major contributor to a successful dating experience? Because from what I'm hearing here is that you obviously knew immediately what was going to be compatible, what wasn't, because you'd taken the time to actually do the work on yourself before you then were seeking these different experiences.
Yes, that's a really good question. Firstly, I think it's important to recognize that as a woman, and this happens very often in relationships, I see it over and over again, in people who come to me who are maybe low in mood, anxious, depressed, because they're not living the life that they want to really live. And the first part of that is knowing yourself as a person. What are your own likes and dislikes? What are the things that you are definitely saying no to, before you go any further? And I know you were talking about, the hotness that was there earlier, Kate, but very often you would see, pictures of nudity and this type of thing on the app. And so for me, that was an immediate swipe left, because I didn't want to put myself in that position where, the expectation was nothing else other than, a sexual encounter. And, I wanted to have value in getting to know someone that was going to be good for me, both energetically speaking, as well as someone who would be kind and, someone who would be considerate. These qualities are so important, and when we know ourselves and we know where our compass lies, what is it that is my drive in life? Because as a woman, we need to know that. We need to, if we have a desire or a goal in life or something that's really, really important to us, we need to be able to express that to someone that we meet, because that needs to be important to them as well. If their goals in life are completely the opposite of what my goals are, then, that's really not going to be something that's going to last, beyond maybe a conversation, maybe a coffee, maybe dinner. But, whatever it is that you decide is your first meeting point, you have to understand that knowing yourself will give you that quality that you are standing in your strength, in your power, as someone who is, first of all, has value to offer yourself and the world and this relationship, but also, that you expect that from the person who's coming to you, who's meeting you, who's giving you their time, who's giving you their energy, who's going to be in your life for whatever time.
So what I'm also hearing here is that you are very clear with your boundaries, in terms of, you're approaching this as an empowered woman, as an empowered goddess. and you are setting your boundaries as to what it is that you want to experience. And obviously, looking for those qualities in a man that you value. And obviously, as we know from metaphysics, those qualities would be within ourselves. So kind and compassionate and all of these different things. So do you feel that maybe some of the dating disasters, I don't know if there are dating disasters, but maybe just dating experiences, dating experiences could be because people don't have clear boundaries or, and such like?
I think this is a great question as well, because I have two answers to that. Okay, so the first time that I set up, a meet, or no, I didn't set it up. The person themselves set it up. They asked me to arrange, or to suggest a place to meet. And I was getting all excited. It was my first date, and to cut a long story short, the person didn't turn up. And I, honest to goodness, I was, pretty upset about it, for a minute. I thought, oh my God, what if he turned up and he saw me and he ran away? So these are the things that
Can I just interject that I definitely know that that is not true? Just so you know. No.
Oh, Divina Kate, you are so kind. But these are the things that go through our head as a woman. And I think that's really, really important to acknowledge, because the first people, as women, to put ourselves down. And that aspect that we really have to examine over and over and over again. And it's through the metaphysical teachings that I discovered, and I have tools, that really keep me on it so that I understand, what belongs to me, what I need to take responsibility for. And what is being projected onto me by someone else, and I need to speak to them about that. I need to communicate compassionately what that is, because if I'm not ready to communicate that, then that leads to misunderstanding and further issues with that with that rabbit hole that makes us think badly of ourselves. We need to be able to communicate, where the boundaries lie, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and I'll give you another example, because, when something happens that someone, stops communicating, and there's a lot of this that goes on. We often hear there are lots of phenomenal, like, names for these things, like ghosting, and where someone just totally disappears, maybe who you've been talking to or whatever. And if that is the case, again, we have to understand, there are certain questions we always need to ask ourselves. And I have to say, I'm going to paraphrase Ipsissimus Dave Lanyon here. I hope he doesn't mind, but I'm going to take these questions because these are really valuable questions. If there's something in life that you don't like, okay, or that, isn't going the way that you want it to go, you have to ask yourself a certain list of questions. And number one, the first question that you have to ask yourself is, what is my part to play in this? And that's a huge question, because if I ask myself that, I'm looking, what am I creating this? Am I creating this episode? And then you need to ask yourself, where have I made it worse? Where am I contributing to this? What am I adding to this to keep it going, to keep it on the boil, as it were? And the next question we need to ask ourselves is, what steps can I take that are wiser? This is where wisdom really comes into it. Inside, if I ask myself that, how can I step up my game this, to change things? And then if that happens to be a pattern, you need to, how will I change this pattern in my life? How will I, make amends for that? And I need to ask myself what is possible and what is not possible, given certain circumstances. And, that requires a lot of self-awareness, but it also requires personal responsibility. And that is the biggest part, you know, that we all need to engage in life, for sure.
Wow, who knew dating could be so deep? I mean,
I know! Do you know what I described it as in the book, Divina Kid? I described it as, you know, relationships are a bit like, oh, please don't take this wrong, but they're like a real learning ground, like a training ground, you know, because if you want to get something really good out of a relationship, then you have to work on yourself first, and that means your physical body, you know, to give it exercise and nutrition and all the things that help you to be on, you know, the way that you would like someone else to treat you. So treat yourself the way you would like someone else to treat you. That is, like we have in the mystery school, that saying, as within, so without. So as soon as you start treating yourself with respect, you know, and saying no to things that are not appropriate, then you'll start attracting the things that are appropriate. And that's the way I regarded each date as I went along, because there were some pretty, you know, wild things that did turn up. And when I said no to that opened the doorway to something much more profound, much better. But it was a piece of training that I had to go through to say, well, exercise your no muscles. You know, it's like, you know, going to the mirror and saying no. And you can say no whichever way you want. You can say, flirtatiously, you can say no, or no, not in a million years. No, 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 no. Or you can say no. You know, you can be strict, no, you can be a madam, but whatever way it is that you know, want to do that, whatever way you want to say no, practice in the mirror, because some of us as women who maybe haven't been as practiced in creating boundaries, you know, haven't practiced saying no.
Yeah.
It's a wee bit like that lesson, you know, like, you know, where you take a mirror and you say, I love you into the mirror. Mm-hmm. You know, this is practicing I love you until, you know, really, even when you don't mean it, even when you can't fathom it, you know, saying it anyway. And it's like that with the word no as well, you know, to really, you know, captivate that. So, yeah, I think that's a huge lesson in all of this. And if you don't mind, I'd like to talk to one other thing, if that's okay, because
yes,
one of the things I really knew a lot when I was dating differences between men and women. I mean, like, gosh, we're polar opposites of each other, total polar opposites of each other. And, you know, especially very masculine men and very feminine women. And, you know, one of the things I noticed most was, for example, if a very masculine man wasn't replying to my text right away. Now, I know most of the women on the planet can relate to that. We've experienced
even married
this.
women
Yeah.
as well.
I know. And one of the reasons for that is because men are really focused, whereas women tend to be multitasking, you know, they can do multitasks quite well. So we expect an answer right away. Whereas if he's focused on something, if he's hard at work at his job, he takes himself away from that. He takes his whole train of thought into focusing on you. He's not going to get done what he needs to get done. So we need to cut each other a little bit of slack when it comes to things like that. And the other thing I noticed as well was this concept of, and I know I mentioned it in the book, and I hope no one minds me, you know, talking about this, because it is a little challenging, but, you know, it's this concept of nagging. Now, as women, you know, when something isn't done right away, we tend to repeat it. And then we repeat it, and then we repeat it, and then we repeat it. And it does become like a pattern until we feel it needs done now. And that can become, if our criticism of our men outweighs our praise of them, then no relationship will survive that. Nothing will survive that. And I think that's a really big piece to take away, in relationships, is that, and I've met so many women, and I said, well, when was the last time, that you, praised him for something, and say, oh, I don't feel like praising him, he's been doing this, like it's such a righteous sort of, piece when a woman says, but look what he's doing. And then I say to them, well, I mean, can you let that go even a little bit, just a teeny weeny little bit, to cut him a little bit of slack? Because yes, we as women remember when things aren't done according to the way that we done. And we can be a little unforgiving, and then that can become a thing. So we need to keep that in mind, to keep the balance of, the love language going, no matter how long we're in the relationship, how long we, are connected to each other, or how short either. It's just to keep that going. And, I suppose the main reason for me writing the book, and I know we're getting close to the end of our time, Divina, but I'm just thinking that the main reason for me writing the book was because I was so sad, hearing the stories over and over again, where both men and women would talk about the significant relationship in their lives, as well as, maybe the dating scene. And it is hard, because if you're not really present to yourself and aware of yourself, and I am a witness to the tools of the school, and they can really transform us in the way that we relate to ourselves. I mean, I was just thinking, today, I was looking at my Empower Thyself manual. Oh my God. And I did that in 2006. And, the teachings in it that are so specific to understanding yourself, knowing what brings you joy, focusing on, that peace within yourself. That I was, a big proponent of knowing my inner voice and what my inner voice was saying to me. When I came to Empower Thyself, that shifted my concept of that so much, because I had been using all the mind techniques up until I came to the mystery school. And believe me, I had done a lot of work on myself, yes, and I had made so much progress, but it was the mystery school that took it to a whole other level, where I was able to weave the energy behind every single thought. And I was able to really carry that energy and that working of the energy, that weaving of the energy into my life, and to address life in a whole other way, which I have to say has brought me so much joy, and actually gave me the strength and courage to go on dating apps and to experience that the way that I did. So I hope that, I hope that maybe clarifies a few points that are in the book.
Goodness. We've had so many comments whilst we've been chatting. That's why I've been glancing over to have a little look. But people are saying they love the nagging part. It's very helpful. And another person was saying that they find their partner so sexy when they're doing the dishes and she lets them know. And, all these different types of things. And it's been great, because people genuinely, you've really, hit the nail on the head with this book, I think, in a way, because people both in relationships and dating want to keep that passion alive. They want that romance. They want all of that stuff. And sometimes life gets in the way. And it's just a brilliant reminder, whether you're dating or you're not dating, it's an absolutely fantastic reminder of all the things to bring that passion back into your relationship. And the whole entire time that we've been talking, we've had a thunder and lightning storm over the top of here, and now it's all gone very quiet and and peaceful. And it's so funny how it just feels like just bringing this all up and to the surface, it does bring a calmness, and it does bring it all out for people to feel, yeah, I can do that. I could do that at home. Never mind, if I'm dating or not. This is really useful stuff for married couples. So, if you haven't yet bought the book, please buy the book, because it's useful for everybody. And we'll put the link in here for you later, so that you can buy. And it is on Kindle. So if you're an unlimited Kindle user, it's for free. I mean, it's fantastic. So Dr. Ann, Divina Ann, we're almost out of time, but do you have one top tip to give our perspective, to women out there who are thinking, shall I go on a dating app or shan't I go on a dating app? What shall I do? Have you got a little top tip just to give them some courage? Oh, we've just lost you, Dr. Ann. If you unmute, can you unmute your mic? I don't know why it's gone on mute for some reason, unfortunately. It looks like we've lost Divina Ann. Is she there? Hello? I feel like I'm teasing you all with this at the end, like give us one top tip and then it's not going to happen. I know, Vina's like cliffhanger. I know, I'm sorry. Obviously, there needs to be a part 2 of this. So we will be back, and I'm going to pop in the comments, where you can buy the book, and we will get Divina Ann. I know Dawn's saying, "Oh no, I need that. I'm sure I need that tip." I think we all need it. So I'm going to ask if she can come back on next week or the week after, and we're going to get that top tip. Okay. So goodbye for now, and tune back in soon.